slope-intercept form. So slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. What does m stand for? Slope, good. What about b? Y-intercept. This beginning part should feel like a refresher of last year. So what I want you to do, go through all 6 on this front page and fill in the slope and the y-intercept from each equation. Okay, so all those should be okay. What about number 5? What's the slope for 5? And what's the y-intercept? Wonderful. Last one. What's the slope?
0.
And what's the y-intercept? Oh, that's impressive. You all know what that equation actually is? It would be y equals 0x plus 6. But 0 times x is just 0, which is why that gets to go away. Okay. So now with graphing. Who remembers what part we start? So if we go back to number 1, if we are trying to graph that equation, where do you start? You always start with your y-intercept. So at -6. And then does anyone remember that little phrase that we have for slope when it comes to graphing?
No, not at all.
Blank over blank. Rise over run. So rise over run. What that means, from our point that we graphed, rise to the top of the fraction, run to the bottom of the fraction. So it's 1/2, up 1, over 2. Up 1, over 2. And we connect our points. Coming back to you a little bit. Okay. Let's look at number 2. So on number 2, if we have a slope, or y-intercept 3 and a slope of 4, what part do you start with for graphing? Y-intercept. So if I were y is 3, so up there. And the slope, we would need that phrase rise over run, so we want it as a fraction. How do you write 4 as a fraction? Wonderful. So that means we're going to rise 4, run 1. So up 4, over 1. Or down 4, left 1. Okay, let's do the next one. So on number 3, where are we starting with? What part are we starting with? Y-intercept, which is 2. So at 2, and if the slope is -2/3, where are we going to move? Down 2, right 1. Negative is always down and right, or up and left. So down 2, right 3. Or up and left. Something to always go back and double check. If you know your slope was negative, did you just draw a line that is going down? If you know your slope was positive, did you just draw a line that you see that is going up? That sounds maybe like something you don't necessarily feel like you have to do, but I cannot tell you how many times I see it where someone wrote that there was a negative slope, but then just it slipped their mind and they make the graph look positive. Just go back and check it. Okay, so let's look at number 5. So on number 5, if the slope or if the y-intercept is 0, where is that?
Origin.
The origin, right? And if the slope is -2, what's -2 as a fraction? Which means which way are we going to go? Down and right. So down 2 and right 1. Or if you need to go the other way, up 2 and left 1. For the last one, for 6, if the y-intercept is 6, what does the graph look like if it has a slope of 0?
Straight.
All of these lines have been straight that we've drawn. It's a horizontal line. Because if it says y equals a number, that means y will never change. If y doesn't change, that means the graph doesn't move up or down at all. It just stays as that horizontal straight line. Okay. All of that refresher of last year. Are we okay? So now let's go into last year. You had slope-intercept form just given to you all the time. This year, not so much. This year, now we have equations in any form, and we have to make it into slope-intercept form first, then graph it. That's why we had that section of getting y by itself. We did that for almost an entire day once. So we're going to do it again. We want to get y by itself. That way it's in slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. On number 7, what would be the first step to try and get y by itself? Move the x part over. So add x. And then we did it back before getting y by itself. Do you know what part I'm going to put first? Look at your form. I'm going to put the x part first. So x and then 12 is positive, so plus 12. Then we're getting y by itself, so what do you have to do next? Divide by 2. So y equals, what number is in front of x that's being divided by 2? A 1. So 1/2 x plus 6. Now it's in slope-intercept form, so what's the slope? 1/2, and what's the y-intercept? Wonderful. Then we could be able to graph it if we needed to. So let's look at 8. On 8, what's going to be the first step? Not divide. How do we move that x part, the whole thing? Add 3x. So 6y equals 3x plus 12. And then now what? Divide by 6, and everything gets divided by 6. What's 3 divided by 6? 1/2. So 1/2 x, and then 12 divided by 6 is 2. So then what's the slope? 1/2, and what's the y-intercept? Wonderful. Let's skip number 9, just go to number 10. So just going straight to number 10. We want to get y by itself. What's the first step? Subtract x. What are we left with when we subtract x? Negative y equals negative x plus 14. And then now what do we have to do to get y by itself? Divide or multiply by -1. Those are the same thing. That's just going to flip all of your signs. So positive y, positive x, minus 14. So what's the slope of that line? 1, because that's the number from x. And then y-intercept? -14. So on the top of the next page, we are graphing. But now look at the form we have. Not slope-intercept form. So we have to combine both things we just did on the front. Get y by itself first to find the slope and y-intercept, then graph it. So if we go to number 12. Let's do 12. We'll skip number 11. So going to number 12, what's the first step? Add 3x. Wonderful. So negative 2y is equal to 3x plus 4. And now what has to happen? Divide by -2. So y equals negative 3/2 x. And then what's after that? -2. What's the slope? Negative 3/2. Wonderful. And y-intercept? Where do we start from? Start at -2, your y-intercept, so starting down there. And if the slope is -3/2, How are we gonna do it? Down 3, right 2. Perfect. I ran out of room there, so go back to where we started. Instead of going down and right,
Up 3, 1, 2.
go up and left. Let's do another example together. Let's do number 13. On 13, what's the first step? Do what with 2x? Subtract it. It's positive, so we want to subtract it. So negative y is equal to negative 2x plus 4. Divide, multiply by negative 1. What is that essentially doing to the equation? Flipping all the signs. So y equals 2x minus 4. So what's the slope?
2.
And what's the y-intercept? What part do we start with graphing? Y-intercept, negative 4. Wonderful. And what would 2 be as a fraction?
2 over 1.
2 over 1. That means we're going to go up 2 over 1. If you don't have a y in your equation, then what's going on with the graph? If it has x equals negative 2. If x equals a number, that means x is going to stay the same the entire time. X will not change. What does the graph look like if x is not going to change? It's a vertical line. If you have a vertical line, so that graph looks like x equals 2 the entire time, so it's a vertical line where x is 2. That is what the graph looks like. But if you have a vertical line, what's the slope? Undefined. And then, what about the y-intercept? What does it mean to have a y-intercept? What does a y-intercept do? Where the graph crosses the y-axis. Where is the graph going to cross the y-axis? Never. What's that vocab word that they're not going to cross? Parallel. They are parallel. If they're never going to cross, because those are parallel lines, there is no y-intercept. It's none.